Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So, as promised, I said um, I would do a Facebook Live for Elena and Heath. Heath has been on my Facebook a couple times before, but I've been going through all my different revelations that I do bring some people back from before because, life changes and things change. And so I wanted to I want to make sure that his significant other, Elena, understands that Jilly Juice is more than just a weight loss. Jilly Juice is more than just a weight gain. Jilly Juice is a whole system reset, and it isn't for the faint of heart. It's a journey that you must prepare yourself for because it's going to change every aspect on how you react to your evolution, your symptoms. And an example for me of where you will end up at some point is that you'll end up proportional, you'll end up clear headed, you'll end up expounding on your talents and even gaining more talents and more awareness about the whole world that you live in. When you get exposed to new viral variants out there, you won't be feeling the pain in your head or pain in your back or pain in everywhere possible. You won't be experiencing the significant symptoms that people experience, which causes them to want to get a therapeutic. It'll just be tapping into your first line of defense, which is the respiratory. That's your first line of defense. However, humans have been channel blocked. And when it first happened, I couldn't tell you because you could try to trace your genetic lines back to the Mayflower, back to the first written record. But humans had a lifespan, still have a lifespan. Why do they have a lifespan? Because they have been channel blocked. And when you've been channel blocked, it means that, first of all, you reacted to your evolution with the herbs. They had opium back in antiquity. They had herbs and marijuana back in antiquity. So they were using channel blocking methods and channel opening methods to then cause more openings of the hormones where it then caused an imbalance. Ever since beginning of mankind. Okay? So when you actually were first channel blocked to cause you to be very skinny, or to cause you to be very obese happened probably way long time ago. And then all the different viral programming, okay, was compounding on each other. And so there's a lot of conflicting information within your innate and your adaptive immune system. Okay, so what makes up your innate and your adaptive immune system? You have your agonist antibodies, which actually add growth, and they have programming based upon the viral telomeres that are attached to your DNA. And then you have the antagonist antibodies that I could characterize as search and destroy, but they keep the code enforcement of your body because you have a blueprint where you have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, whatever, right? You're not supposed to have 2 noses, only 1 nose. So you have a blueprint of the human body. We came from a prototype, which is the apes, and then turned into a caveman. And the caveman was then bioengineered way back then. Who bioengineered and when, it doesn't even matter at this point. Now you have to figure out how can you adapt to this environment. So you've been bioengineered to have what you have. And so now your bioengineering must be able to adapt, because humans have been on this earth for eons, but we keep dying and reproducing. And so the whole premise of the Jilly Juice is not only to unchannel block you and to allow the intelligence of your body to open and close channels, but to also live indefinitely. Okay? And so humans have, we came from a prototype. We've been open and closed channel blocked. There's so much diversity. We've been bioengineered. Biotech gives life. Biotech can take away life relative to where you are on the spectrum of life and death. And so now And so now it comes down to, how do we tap into immortality? How do we tap into indefinite life? And so I figured out with the Jilly juice, okay, and it was by accident, that yes, I did lose a lot of weight on Jilly juice. That was the first thing I noticed when I first did Jilly juice. Now, how did I invent Jilly juice? Because I was looking for a recipe that was a probiotic that wasn't kombucha, because that's fermented sugar, which is nothing wrong with it, but it has to be done very carefully and in moderation. When you're drinking a lot of fermented sugar, or just a lot of sugar in general, which is not bad, but when you're drinking fermented sugar in reaction to cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or any kind of malady, then over time, it will start depleting your teeth. And I'm like, oh my God, because not only the acids from the lactic acid from the probiotics from fermented kombucha sugar, but then also the sugar itself. Okay. And so I noticed that when I was drinking like 3 kombuchas a day, I was working at an insurance company and I was drinking water to try to wash off the sugar after I drank it, because I knew that was going to happen, because it was said to us, through the holistic groups, that yes, if you drink so much of that fermented sugar and the acids, it will eat away at your teeth. And yes, I had the top part of my tooth crumble, and that's when I got off it. And that's when I found the recipe online through several different experiments, using pickles, using carrots, and then finally it was cabbage. It was the sauerkraut, but then turned into fermented cabbage juice. Okay, and then I noticed when I drank a bunch of it, and I had like 2 cups every day, or every meal. So I was drinking more of the Jilly juice using pink Himalayan salt, not the white salt, more than I was eating. And so, yes, I was dropping the weight. But here's the thing. This is not just a weight loss. You're going to bring up every single predisposition. Okay, so you have predispositions in your DNA that been channel blocked and channel opened and all that stuff. And then how you react to your symptoms has then what compounds the issue. And then all the viruses compounding all the different programming within your body. And if you look at your family medical history, you might have heart issues. You might have lung issues. You might have cancer in your family medical history. You might have, trauma from past, situations in your lifetime. You might have, I don't know, everybody has different predispositions. There's no way for anyone, a stranger, that could tell you your predispositions. You could look at your family and figure out who died from what. Your grandparents, you can look at your parents to see what they're dealing with right now. You're dealing with stuff right now in of itself. If somebody is obese, they have been channel blocked to where they can't process and metabolize food in a proportional way. So they keep gaining weight. Well, how the system reacts to people who have unbalanced energy imbalances in their hormones, because it's all hormonal, is then they say, okay, stay away from this food, stay away from that food. They'll do bariatric surgery. So they'll go in invasively and start, stapling everything. And obviously that's not going to help you over time. That's just a temporary fix. And then eventually you're going to end up dead anyways, like everybody else does when they go and do things like that. Okay. And so you have predispositions, you have all those issues. And so what Jilly juice does, what the actual Jilly juice does, it opens up the ionic gates, and it allows every single predisposition, every single virus that was held at bay because of vaccines, because of therapeutics. It allows everything to finally open up, and you deal with your evolution, what your family, what you have been suppressing over the past 40 years or however old you are, finally come to surface. And you might see skin conditions. You might feel electricity. You might feel like you have high blood pressure. Okay. You're going to be contacted most likely by trolls who will send you videos of the Dr. Phil show. They'll send you an article from BuzzFeed that says, I was connected to somebody's death who had pancreatic cancer. Well, the guy had pancreatic cancer. He was in hospice. And this is very early on in the protocol. And he probably wasn't eating. Okay, so anyone that's in hospice is probably not processing food very well and was drinking a bunch of J juice and probably didn't realize that he needed to eat as well. And so that's why people are mad at me, because they think that I'm harming people because they have to bring up their predispositions. No, the reason why people die is because they have an unbalanced hormonal disbursement. They've been channel blocked and they're malnourished. Okay? And so I want you to understand that that doing the J juice, opening up the ionic gates and allowing all the prior evolutions come to surface, all the different viruses come to surface, is going to be rather overwhelming. Okay? And it'll be rather overwhelming for you, Elena, and it'll be rather overwhelming for you, Heath. I tagged other people in this video because if they have something to offer as far as any advice, if they want to, they don't have to, but I figured they're the ones that I see a lot the most. There's a lot of people in my group that are doing this, but I figured, the best right now is like, Caroline and Jolie and other people. But I want you to know this journey with the J juice is not for the faint of heart. You're going to feel headaches. And here's the thing, why people die, okay, is how they react to their symptoms. When they take something in the medical industry, such as an antibiotic, when they start playing with their chakras and opening up channels, then they start feeling, maybe they release some energy, but then they don't know how to retain the energy. So what happens is in the medical holistic energy healing world is they are either blocking channels and creating dead zones so you don't feel anything, or they're opening up certain gates and releasing energy, but you never know how to get that energy back in a more peaceful way. It's all negative, aggressive energy, but it was never taught to be converted. And so what Jilly Juice does is, in the beginning, if you are obese, yes, you will probably deal with waterfalls, which is peeing out your butt. You'll probably have the headaches, the skin conditions, the yeast infections, the constipation. What else? Hemorrhoids. I mean, you name it. I went through it all going through this process. So this venture is not for the faint of heart. Okay. It's going to be rather miserable. I'm going to be quite honest. Yes, the outcome will be that you've lost weight, but you cannot depend upon J juice. Here's the thing. Once somebody gets to a proportional size, whatever that is, but then, you might have a skewed version of what proportional size is. Then you get off the J juice, or when you plateau on the white salt, because the recipe is out there. It's the white salt instead of the pink salt. When you plateau, you get off the J juice, and then then what's going to happen is there'll be different viral variants out there, because there's always viruses trying to upgrade you. When you get upgraded, you're going to feel symptoms relative to your predispositions, whatever they are. And when you feel those predispositions, you cannot react with J juice, and you cannot react with anything in the medical holistic industry. Because as soon as you try to cover up pain and symptoms, you will go back to devolving. And so that's what we've discovered when, because you came upon where I just made the recent change. You just came into this where now I'm saying, okay, everyone that's been on the J juice for the last 4 years, get off. Because now J juice is being used as a cure. Cures mean that they're curing you in the state that you're in so you don't feel any pain, and then you're not working with the environment. You're resisting the environment. And when you resist the environment and you are in a dynamic environment and your body is dynamic, you will then be thermodynamically deficient. What does that mean? Well, all cell biology is based upon thermodynamics. It's based upon physics. It's based upon how you utilize energy. Okay? And so, and I'm telling you, this is a whole lot. Right now, you're seeing the process of me devising another book. Because this is my third book that I'm devising based upon new information. Okay? Thermodynamics is how you utilize energy. And when you get the energy from a viral transducer, like a virus, it's going to cause then symptoms. Okay? You're going to feel it through your nose. You must have the energy and the substance behind you to be able to blow your nose and get everything out of your chest. out of your lungs. And so if you don't have that energy to do it and you don't want to feel like doing it, then people turn to cough suppressants and turmeric and honey and all these elderberry syrup to stop it. But what happens is then you retain that negative energy, which is the mucus, which is the excess programming, because we know now that viruses are programming, and we have to have the programming of the viruses and the food supply, the food supply all aligned with each other. And if you don't get out the old programming, then you're going to have conflicting energy in your body fighting against each other. And so we don't want anybody to dry up the mucus or do anything. It means that you must blow your nose, you must cough, you must exercise your diaphragm. And so you're seeing a whole lot. And I'm attempting to kind of bring things from the beginning, which is like so difficult because there's so much to it, all the way up to this point. But I'll say this. You must drink water when you're on the J juice, especially if you're trying to lose weight. But the weight should not be the only thing, because you might have heart conditions that will come up. Not that it's going to hurt you. You have to have the food supply to deal with it. But I can't tell you what kind of predispositions are going to come to surface for you. It's not that the J juice caused you to, or not the J juice created it. The J juice brings up all the evolution, the energy that was suppressed. So if you have a heart condition, you might feel heart attacks. Not that it was our fault, but either you deal with your heart or you suppress it and deal with it down the road and die from a heart attack when you don't have anything to you. You don't want that to happen. You have to bring things to surface and deal with it in real time, and you have to back it up with the food supply. And so that's why, like someone like Jilly, who's underweight, that's dealing with all of her issues, is dealing with everything head on, and she's using food, not like herbs and spices and all these different things in the holistic, but she's using food as an insulation source. Because yes, people who are obese have a lot of insulation. People who are underweight hardly have any insulation. And both sides, like the binary code 1 and 0, both sides are extremes. And then then look at the esoteric knowledge, the Trinity. Okay, you have the plus and minus, the obese and the skinny, and then and those things work off each other. Opposites attract. You probably see it out there. Everyone has their opposites attract. And then you have the intelligence, the top of the capstone. The top of the capstone says, okay, I'm going to balance out both the positive and negative and be the balance in between the two and rise above all the arguments out there. Rise above it all. So that way you're not caught up in the activism, caught up in the for and against, that you actually take care of your body and worry about yourself, because the system out there is just going to keep the most superficial, what keeps people alive in the most superficial way. But then it's up to you to figure out how to take it to the next level without utilizing the system's methodologies of channel blocking or channel opening relative to, intention. And so I would say that Jilly Juice is really for the strong. Jilly Juice is really for the strong. You're going to have to determine once you take that first sip if you have what it takes to deal with all of your predispositions, not just losing weight and not just dealing with one symptom. If you have one symptom like weight, dealing with weight, you will have probably 50 other symptoms right behind that that's going to be dealt with. And I can't tell you if they're going to come up first or second or third or fourth. The body prioritizes based upon the most severe situation. And I can't tell you what that's going to be. It might be a surprise to you. You might not even realize. You might have crying episodes. You might be, who's to say what's going to come to surface? And so Jilly Juice is not for the faint of heart. It is really for the freaking strong. So if you are strong enough to weather your own past, to weather your own predispositions, and you look at your parents, you look at your grandparents, you look at what you've dealt with, what medicines that you're on right now. Okay, and I don't want to answer really any questions like, should I take the medicine? Take your medicine, do whatever you got to do, okay? But the whole intention is to get off the medical holistic industry. The whole intention is not to have the medical holistic energy healing world as your crutch. The whole intention is not to have Jilly Juice as your crutch. The whole intention is for you to be able to poop on your own or using coffee, like I do sometimes, as an energy source, not using Jilly Juice, because you'll find out that Jilly Juice will give you energy. It really will. But it also takes off substance. And some people that can't afford to have substance taken off, so they have to then eat a bunch of food right after that. And then they're not really regenerating when you think about it, because every time they feel a pain, they take Jilly juice or take something else, and then it mitigates the cell regeneration. It mitigates the evolution. And so pain is evolution. And so you're seeing me try to go from so many different, subject matters, and it's like it's all jumbled up. And so that's why I'm in the middle of writing a book, trying to figure out, where do I start first? Do I start first with this? Do I start because there's in my book that I'm devising now, is like I'm talking about esoteric knowledge, Greek mythology, Greek history, the Freemasons, the Catholic Church, the all the different wars and all that stuff. Not I'm going to all the wars, but some of the social issues that we have. I mean, it's just endless, the amount of information that I have. And so what do I lead with and what do I end with is really what I'm trying to figure out. But since you were asking about, well, give me the lowdown on, from beginning to end, I'm like, holy crap, there's so much. There's no real possible way to give me really the beginning to end, because there's just so much. But I wanted to give you kind of the superficial, Cliff Notes version, especially relative to your intentions. And you said your intention was to lose weight. Well, it'll be more than just losing weight, honey. It's going to be so much more. But then even through all that pain, you're going to be dealing with dreams. You're going to have your pineal gland decalcified. You're going to have, just awarenesses and awakenings. And maybe you don't have your politics anymore. Maybe you're not going to be an anarchist anymore. Maybe you get out of the fight because there's nothing to fight. You're fighting yourself. So there's a lot of potential outcomes if you allow the outcomes to happen. But if you fight against what could possibly be an evolution, then you'll stay stuck in your arguments, your anarchy, your for and against. The government really isn't the enemy. They're just trying to figure out how to keep society at an even keel without so much influx of energy and chaos. And because you have to live, your kids have to live if you have any kids. The world around you has to live. We can't have so much chaos. So there has to be some kind of happy medium between the people and the government. And so maybe you might have an awareness and maybe you won't. So I just want to warn you that you really need to consider all the different upsides and downsides to J juice, what you're willing. I don't know what your lifestyle is. I don't know what responsibilities you have. I don't know if you're a breadwinner, and I don't know if you're a stay-at-home mom. I don't know if you have kids. Okay. Jilly juice will definitely bring you down to your knees on some level sometimes. And that means that you'll be like in pain. And that is evolution, and it has to be done very carefully, especially if you're trying to lose weight. But I wasn't there's before and after pictures that I have on my Facebook, but I wasn't extremely obese. What I had was PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Interesting thing is I haven't had my period since April. That's the weirdest thing ever. And it could be likened to that the COVID has messed with people's reproductive system. So I don't know what that means. Everything still works. I mean, it's not like I'm like a desert or anything, but it's just that I don't have my period. And I'm like, what the hell? So this is what I was doing last night after I had my pizza and after I had that major nap. It wasn't the pizza, it wasn't the Coke. And it's a viral variant that comes through that I have to get out the excess and recode. So your body right now with this environment is going to be recoded over and over and over again. And that's what I have to look forward to, is every single time a variant comes through, okay, my body recodes and the food recodes. And there's my dog. See, that's my dog Sugar. And she's gone through so many different symptoms with the virus and everything. And she's doing great. She hasn't had any seizures. She hasn't peed the bed in the last couple weeks. She's just very, very calm. She used to, because she was on the J juice for a minute, but then I put like some sugar in it because she got exposed to the COVID and her body started shaking like she had a very low blood sugar. Like she had more ionic than covalent bonding going on. And so I figured out that with the J juice, I actually added fruit syrup to it. And so that gave her the covalent bonding, the substance. And I fed her a lot more of the fats and the carbs and the grains and all that stuff so she can pack on more pounds as the virus is working through her body. And yeah, animals and people will get seizures from viruses or anything that changes their biochemistry if that's in their predispositions. So there's a lot to the J juice and to the virus energy that most people don't really understand. So that's why they get vaccines, to lessen it or to channel block or whatever. But it also can work against them relative to predispositions. But yeah, my dog had skin allergies. She had anxiety issues. Now she doesn't even chew on a tennis ball anymore. Now she doesn't even have the skin issues. Her fur is like so lush and so, glossy and just amazing. She's just very calm. So my J juice and all viruses will change your personality. It will change the way you react to stuff, but you'll go through so many different levels of healing and you'll be reactive. You'll be angry. You'll be sad. You'll be every emotion under the sun. And it's going to be a freaking roller coaster. And it's not for the faint of heart yet again. So I really want you to look at if you're willing to go through this journey, to really examine if you're ready for this. Because it's not just losing weight. It's not just gaining weight. It's a whole lot more, and of which not everyone is ready for. And so that's why people get mad at me, because I told them that you're going to feel pain. I don't know what kind of pain you're going to feel. I never said this was going to be easy. You're seeing me on the total other side of it, where I'm like, yeah, it's about programming people. Yeah, all that stuff that I write is very true, programming people. But how do you deprogram? Is that journey between deprogramming and whatever it is, evolving from de-evolution, that journey between the two endpoints, it's not easy. You don't get to that in a month or a day or 2 days or whatever. I've been doing this journey for the last 4 years. I finally got off the J juice last year when I started writing my book around the COVID. Okay, I lost so much weight, and then I'm like, okay, I'm losing too much weight. And so I finally got off my protocol and started eating everything. I didn't have any diet. I had no discrimination. And I steadily gained weight, but it's a proportional weight. I'm not trying to be like a model out there, and I'm not trying to be like a weightlifter. You must have fat on your body. You can't have too much fat and you can't have too little fat. It has to be proportional and be able to insulate you from all this electricity in the environment. And so what humans do is they actually go way too far on each end of the spectrum. They're either so heavy because they're eating so much and they don't have the metabolism to process it, so they become insulin resistant, and then they have other issues. Or they starve themselves to where there's nothing to them. They have no insulation. When they get exposed to a virus or any kind of electricity in the environment, they don't have what it takes to handle that electricity, and then they might die from a heart attack relative to predispositions. Then you have humans that go and weightlift all the time. So now they're mostly muscle and hardly any fat, which taxes their organs, and they still don't have any insulation because they're burning all that fat during the weightlifting process and the repetition of the treadmill and all of that, and the biking and the hiking and all that, and then going to regions like California or Arizona and hiking in 150-degree weather, and then they burn all that fat energy. And so humans don't really understand balance. And so that's when I looked at the Greek gods, and I'm like, okay, the Greek gods were actually Greek. There was not, Greek mythology is actually Greek history, and the gods actually do exist. Okay, we're looking at immortality. They never were immortal back in antiquity. Now, were the Greek gods immortal? They say they were, but I mean, do I know any Greek god out there? Well, they're not going to make themselves known, okay? That would be weird, right? If someone says, oh yeah, I'm a Greek god, and I've been living for the last 500 years, and I've been looking this way. I mean, come on. Nobody would believe that, okay? But when I look at the statues of the Vatican, and I see that these Greek gods and the women were Rubenesque. They weren't too skinny and they weren't too fat. They were proportional. They had muscle, but they also had fat on their body. They had hair too. Okay, when you have hair, it means you have a good amount of fat on your body that's proportional to give you the hair, skin, and nails balance, the integumentary system. Okay? So there's a whole lot to the Jilly Juice, more than just losing weight, more than just my politics around, being programmed and deprogrammed and all this stuff. There's a whole lot more. I mean, my pinned post and what I write on Facebook only scratches the surface. Again, you will see all the negative articles about me. You could see the Dr. Phil show, and I'm presenting this to the world and everyone's making fun of me. Okay, fine. That's always going to happen when you introduce a new thought process to people who are not ready for it. But I'll tell you what, Jilly Juice is not for the faint of heart yet again. Jilly Juice is really for someone that's skinny, you only need it twice. You really only need it twice, because what's going to happen is you'll reset your body, you get the waterfalls, you reset your body, you'll feel everything come to surface, and then you start eating everything in the food supply. And then what happens is you'll feel constipated, you'll try to turn to J Juice to get the waterfalls, right? Because you saw that happen before. And then what's going to happen is that you want to turn to either picking the poop out, which, okay, fine, I know it's gross, but you do what you got to do. That's what your fingers are there for. It's called the digital method. You can use coffee and cream. You can do enema with warm water. But the most frustrating thing about J Juice is figuring out how to deal with your poop. That's why they called us a poop cult. Because yes, people were releasing a lot of excess parasites. When someone was obese, they were releasing excess parasites. They were seeing parasites in their toilet. And so that's what kind of just kicked off all of the controversy about J Juice. They're like, oh, she's destroying you with the salt. Salt's not destructive. It's a cure, yes. It's highly ionic, okay? And yes, people do have excess parasites because they have systems in their body, especially their colon, that has been stagnated, and so something had to go and mediate the food and break it down, right? No different than composting, in your garden with worms. The worms are out there composting your garden to break everything down, so down to an organic material, so the earth can use it. Okay, so when you have a lot of worms in your poop, it means that you have stagnation. Everyone's supposed to have a certain amount of parasites because they are part of the microbiome. You have your viruses, you have your parasites, you have your protozoa, your proteins, your fungus, and your bacteria. All of that's supposed to be. You start taking antivirals, you start taking antiparasitics, you start taking antibacterials, you start taking fungals, you start destroying your microbiome in your body, and then you destroy you. And the parasites need a host, a virus needs a host, so anything that's antiviral will destroy the person because a person is the host. The cells are the host. And so that's another issue with the medical holistic system, is that people are destroying themselves because they don't want to feel the evolution. And so there's a whole lot to J Juice. And so, yeah, I would say get my book, but I took that book off the market because I don't want people utilizing it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the book that I have, the book that I had out, but it wasn't enough information. And even though it gave you kind of the lowdown about the microbiome, and it gave the lowdown about salt and sugar, it wasn't complete. And the protocol in there, the instructions on what to do, how much to take, all that stuff, it's like, I want people to maybe do it once or twice. When someone's obese, you could do a whole lot in the beginning, but I don't know if you can handle a whole lot in the beginning because you're going to have all your predispositions come to surface. And it might be something that you string out for a couple months to get, and it took me about a couple months to lose the weight, definitely. But eventually you're going to have to get off the J Juice. And Heath, you won't need the J Juice very long. You'll need the J Juice only for maybe once or twice waterfalls, and then you got to pack on the food. Elena, you might need a little bit longer, but I would suggest that probably less than 6 months that you get off it and finally deal with the predispositions. And so my book doesn't allude to that. So that's why I took the book off the market, because it wasn't super complete with the information that I have today, which is why I'm rewriting this book again based upon evolution. So that way everything is complete and people aren't just taking Jilly Juice indefinitely. Now their body must be trained to poop on its own, even if you have to help it with coffee or the digital method. And you must understand that it's not about looking skinny like a model and it's not looking ripped like a weightlifter. It's being adaptable to this now piezoelectric environment. It is being adaptable to this environment. And this environment is very aggressive. Okay. And so that's the whole point right now of where I'm at with this J juice stuff. So anyways, I'm going to go and figure out how I'm going to attack this. But again, we have 3 lines of defense. And, oh, this is a white hair that I just pulled off my shirt. Look at that, you guys. See my white hairs they're not like, they're disappearing. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so you'll reverse the aging process, but it's going to take some time. All right. And that's the outcome of the J juice, is reversing the aging process. Yes, tap into potential immortality, but you have to face pain right in its face. And then eventually you're going to have to then cough out any excess programming when you get exposed to a viral variant. And taking cough suppressants and taking Theraflu and NyQuil and all those things are going to work against you. Anything in the medical, holistic, energy, crystal, healing world are going to work against you. The Reiki, the massage, the acupuncture, the turmeric, the honey, all the herbal remedies, every single detox is going to work against you. And that's going to be very difficult for some people to figure out. And they may never figure it out. And it is what it is. All right. Bye.